All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as people come in here from the waiting room. This is our third of three sessions in the M1 Accelerator series, and we've invited the esteemed Paul Erickson here to run us through balancing categories based on consumer demand. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks, Nico. And I like the fact you called me esteemed.
And happy belated birthday as well.
Well,
Before we get to the
you're
actual session, I want to run through a little bit of housekeeping here. This is a live Q&A session, so we encourage questions. Please use the Q&A button down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we are more than happy to address your questions as the session goes on. One of the more popular questions we usually get is, are we recording this? And 100% yes, we are recording the full session. If you do need to leave, not a problem. We are going to send the recording out later today. Along with a link to the first two sessions that we ran starting way back in August. So we'll definitely have that for you as well. So the Accelerator series, thank you again for joining us. This was a free series that we designed starting back in August, really to give people the opportunity to look deeper into the data and grab some of the knowledge and decisive action that you need to create a more efficient and profitable business. And this session really is no exception. I know Dane Cohen, who is our road warrior out in the trade shows, often refers to categories in retail as individual profit centers within your business. And when you start to look at the various categories in your business as individual profit centers, that's when you start to recognize the importance of analyzing the data separately to really spot opportunities. And that's what we've invited Paul here to show us today. And I'm excited to see what you have for us, Paul. It is yours.
Do we light the candle and get going?
I love it.
All right. Thanks, Nico. Hi, everybody. I'm going to start out with golf. I probably didn't expect this to be the beginning, but golf is a game where everything is measured. The score is measured against par. That measurement is so vital to golfers that they're provided a card from before they start play, for which they record the number of strokes taken in a round. And some golfers are so obsessed with tracking other statistics. I'm thinking of Robert Reedy and Richie Sainer at this point in time. They're so obsessed in hopes of discovering shortcomings that they analyze length of the drive, they analyze how many drives are in the fairway, how many greens they hit in regulation, number of putts required to get the ball in the hole. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it's not just golf either, Nico. It's runners. Runners log how many miles they run. Weightlifters chart progress by keeping journals of the amount of weight they've lifted and the number of repetitions performed. And the point of all of this is that without benchmark information as a reference point, you really don't know where you need to improve. So today, we're going to delve into balancing your inventory investment, having enough products to meet consumer demand, but avoiding excessive inventory and the consequences of that. So what is inventory? What do I mean by inventory balance? Well, I think it's common. Inventory balance amongst many retailers is commonly thought of as the process of moving excessive inventory from one retail location to another retail location where that inventory will sell better. And when it's done right, the process itself will free up space and open to buy budgets for those stores with the slow moving inventory, and also quickly and cost effectively restocking stores that are not keeping up with demand, thus increasing sales. But I think for many of you listening to my voice today, inventory balancing is really more about balancing by classification within your store. And that can mean eliminating product styles, vendors, even the entire classification sometimes, if you need to, and then taking that cash out to increase inventory purchases and holding inventory in those classifications, in those areas of your store that are doing better and we feel we can grow. So first of all, let's talk about inventory surplus or overstock. What causes that? And it's a variety of factors, often stemming from challenges to inventory management, demand forecasting, market dynamics, etc. But I listed 5 that I thought I'd just go over real quick. First of all, carryover. Carryover inventory is usually caused by a misguided theory that even though it didn't sell last season, it somehow will magically be more attractive next season. Also, inadequate markdown strategies. If any of you have heard my presentations over the years, you know that I declare war on markdowns, and it's also related to carryover. Slow sellers. After all other options are exhausted, you need to discount and clear very, very quickly. This is not about squeezing out a little bit of profit, but this is about getting the cash back as fast as you can in your checking account to reinvest in new inventory that hopefully will sell better. One of the things that Nico and I see over the years is when we get new clients and they're overstocked, they have an inventory surplus, many times it's as simple as they just buy too many vendors. And so looking at the vendor matrix is very, very important. Stores can be sometimes, intrigued by bulk purchasing discounts from vendors, buying in bulk to achieve, like, say, a 10 or maybe even a 20% discount. For most independent retailers, not always, but for most times, it rarely works out as the carrying costs eat up the discount far more quickly than most retailers realize. And finally, last but of course not least, inaccurate planning, inaccurate predictions of consumer demand. Buying more than you can reasonably sell in a reasonable period of time is going to cause inventory buildup and inventory surplus. So what are these consequences? I think we all know what they are, actually. When I say reduced agility, if all your money's tied up in certain parts of your store and it's not performing, it's going to create poor cash flow, which is going to give you less agility to get back into the things that really are selling. Lost profits are obviously another part of this. When you have inventory surplus, it depresses your sales. And the reason why is your inventory isn't turning, which the customer sees the same merchandise on each visitation, which would mean, I believe, that if they see the same things in the store that they saw 2 months ago, they're less likely to come in more often. And last but not least, it's capital tied up. Your capital tied up that could be invested in other growth categories. And then inventory shortage. How does that happen? How can retailers not have enough of what's really selling? I think one of the things that happen more than anything, though, is that we don't really understand the potential trends in certain classifications. And there is a way to identify those within your Management One merchandise plans, which we have, I believe, talked about in other presentations, which Nico is going to send you a copy of. It's capital tied up in non-productive inventories, and also thin and wide, which is something that I think retailers talk about in terms of, against narrow and deep presentations on inventory. Thin and wide is a very major cause of inventory shortage, because if you have a thin presentation of inventory but wide, so you're trying to cover all bases, soon as the merchandise that really the customer wants sells, now you're out of stock, now you have an inventory shortage. And finally, of course, last but not least, is poor planning. Consequences of inventory shortage are lost sales. You can't grow your business. It's a negative impact on your store image and brand. They come in, they can't find merchandise that they want, they leave, they don't come back, which of course creates depressed sales. So let's look at some reports within Retail Orbit at Management One, and I'm going to show you some examples of exactly what I'm talking about. The first one, and this is the inventory action report. And what I want to show you here, I'm going to use if you can see my little pointer there. What we're looking at here is a multi-store operation, and we're looking at their core t-shirt business. Now, if you look at last month's sales plan was $233,000, and what they actually did accomplish, which is $235,000, pretty much their sales were exactly what we expected them to be. Let's drop over and look at the total for inventory. Their inventory target, it would be $643,000. We believe that would be the optimum amount of inventory carried in the stores. And you see that they're slightly understocked by about $100,000 exactly at $543,000. That's the top line. That's the top view. That's the helicopter view, if you will. But when we start to search down and look at individual stores, we see a lot of problems and a lot of opportunities. Let's take store 3, for example. Store 3, even though our inventory is the plan is slightly under where we should be, Store 3 is less than half, or more than half of what we need to have, more than double. In other words, the optimum inventory in Store 3 is 45,000. We're sitting now at 98,000. Let's look at that in a different perspective. Right now, the inventory to total right now is 18% to the total of business in t-shirts. Their sales last month were 6%. Their sales in this store for the last year is 4%. That is a quick way to determine this is an inventory surplus where we're carrying far too much merchandise than what we really need. Now let's drop down to Store 7. Now, Store 7, if you look at Store 7, is pretty interesting because the inventory is actually not that much more than what we have in Store 3, 119,000 against 98. But the target inventory, where we should be, the optimum amount of inventory to maximize revenue is 207,000. We're almost in this particular location, half of what we need. And we see it with the percentages. Again, 22% of the inventory in core t-shirts for this retailer is sitting in Store 7. Store 3 has 18%, about the same amount of inventory. But if you look at the sales, again, 6% last month in Store 3, 36% of the revenue that's being produced in t-shirts last month was being produced in that store that's only holding 22% of the inventory. That store that's only holding a little bit more than half of what they should have. And that's not just a good month. 36% was last month. For the last year, it's been 35%. This is a great way to really look at where you're heavy, where you're light, and then to take action on it. Let's take a look within a store. I'm just going to move this around a little bit, move my head around here so I can see everything. So what we have here is we have denim and other bottoms. So what we're seeing here in the action report is that last month sales were $29.44 in other bottoms. The plan was $59, not a very good month. Denim did $43.33. The plan was $27. So denim last month fairly outperformed all of the bottoms, which essentially probably would be pants. But that was a little bit of an anomaly because if you look then on this is a global report. On this report, you can see that the inventory, the sales for the last 90 days were pretty much eerily the same. Pants did 13,487. Denim did 13,355. So even though denim outperformed pants last month, the last 90 days, which is a much better indicator, by the way, of true customer demand, not just 1 month, but for the last 90 days, the last quarter, you can see both these categories are equal in consumer demand. Now let's walk over to the inventory, shall we? Denim inventory at the end of the month was at $5,598 at retail. Now remember, they just sold $4,300 the month prior. They have barely more and barely over what we sold last month. Well, bottoms, the pant business is sitting with 20,000 or 4 times. Again, we see that in percentages. Inventory for total for denim, 4.5%. For pants, almost 17%. Sales, again, the last month, we had a good month in denim. It was 11% against 7.5%. But if you look at for the last year, and this is why we include the percentage for the last 12 months. 1 month can be an anomaly. 1 month can be an outlier. But when we look at the last 12 months here, we see that pants do outsell denim, but certainly not to the degree that we would have 4 times the inventory. Let's look at an inventory action report. That was a global report. Let's look at an inventory action report. And what that's going to tell us is, this is this month. How are we doing right now? And let's blow that up for a second. So let's take a look. Again, we're going to pick on denim and other bottoms again. So first, what we see. The sales plan this month is 5188 in pants, and you know what? We're trending to beat that. So it appeared that last month was that kind of outlier anomaly. We didn't have a pretty good month in pants, but we're making up for it now. Denim, though, the plan is 4479. But the denim, which was doing so well last month, is tracking under target. Why would that be? Let's go to inventory. Remember with the inventory, let me go back. I'm going to go back 2 slides. Remember the inventory in denim was 55.98 at the end of the month, right here, which we thought, oh my God, that's really low. It's down to 43.36 as of last night. This is an action report. This is real time. We're only at 43. Do you think that we're not going to make plan based on this? I doubt very much we'll even come close to the 4,059 we're trending now because we're completely broken. So in this particular example, actually the pant category is doing fine. If we do $6,000 in sales this month and we have an $18,000 inventory, that's 3 to 1. That's not a bad ratio to look at inventory to sales. But denim is completely understocked, underfunded, and we're missing business. The key to inventory management, and this is where something I talk to retailers a lot, and they're the misguided conception. I know this is going to be a little controversial, Nico. The misguided conception is that what we should be looking for is profitability at all times. I can tell you that if we're looking at profitability in every example I'm going to show you today, it's not going to tell you even near the story what's going on. We are in a business of inventory sell-through. How quickly we can get inventory in and out of the store, but having the right amount. A little bit like Goldilocks. We don't want the porch too hot or too cold. We want it just right. And so I'm going to show you examples of how you can find in your store, in your reports and management one, how you can find where you may be missing business while over inventoried other areas. Let's take a look at another example. We're going to pick on dresses and special occasion dresses here. I think we did blow that up, so I'm going to stay right there. So we have dresses and special occasions on our global analytics report. Now, I'm going to show you how to look for this in a different way, but we're going to start with global analytics. You can see that last month's sales plan in both categories, we were pretty much right on the money. The dresses the goal was 56.60, we did 54.08. Special occasion dresses, the goal was 53.40. Boy, we beat it by $19. In terms of profitability, if we look at markdowns, the markdown percentage is probably a little high, but it's about the same. So profitability isn't any different. This is where I'm coming back to in terms of if we're just looking at profitability, this is the wrong place to look. And then the last 90 days, this is what I love about the Global Analytics Report. The last 90 days, that we've received $26,000 in dresses in the last 90 days, and we have sold $23,000 in dresses in the last 90 days. And that last 90 days, our dress business is up a whopping 40%. By far the best category for this retailer, dresses. Now let's look at its kiss and cousin special occasion dresses. Again, profits the same. Last month's sales about the same. We received more than double special occasion dresses than from just regular dresses. In the last 90 days, we received $48,000 as opposed to 26, and sold less, 19,000 as opposed to 23.8. In fact, special occasion dress business is down from a year ago, 8.87%. This is a waste of money. Capital is precious, as you all know, and we all want to improve our cash flow and not have our capital tied up in non-performing categories. This would be a eye-opener, I would say, why are we buying almost double as much, selling less, and we're up in sales 40%, we're funding the category that's down 8.87%. I'm not done yet, Nico. Let's go over to the inventory. We have 100, is everyone sitting down listening to my voice? We have $140,000 unsold inventory in special occasion dresses. That's 19% of our total capital investment in inventory is tied up in special occasion dresses. a category that produced last month 4% of sales, and for the year 7%, and you see the big negative over here. That's why this is an important conversation. Every classification needs to stand on its own, of course, but one classification cannot rob another of future profits. I'm going to show you this in a different way now, and we're going to actually look at the merchandise plan. This is the merchandise plan for dresses. But let's blow up what I want to talk about. This is the same retailer. Remember, the same dresses. So this is going to be interesting. Remember the inventory. The inventory right now is 49,000. Now let's look at how much we've been looking at sales, and we've been looking at inventory positions. Let's look at another factor here that's going on, which is buying and purchasing, and are we overbuying? And what we can do is go down to the bottom of the merchandise plan. And anyone who knows me knows that Paul likes to live. This is my home right down here. The last 3 months, the last 6 months, the last year. How much sales do we do in dresses? Let's just deal with a year. We've done $101,000 in sales in dresses in the store. We purchased $58,273 at cost. So our cost of goods purchased was 57% of 101,000. So let's remember these. So I want you to remember 3 numbers before I go to the next page. Inventory, 49,000. Sales, 101. Purchases at cost, 58. Anybody with a heart condition or is pregnant may want to leave the meeting at this point in time. Now let's look at special occasion. Remember that bloated $156,000 inventory? We purchased the exact same amount the last year in special occasion dresses as we did other dresses. Both were 58,000. Let me go back and remind you, 58,273. You get my thing. That was dress purchases for the last year at cost. Invoices. Now let's look at special occasion. Same number almost, within $100. You know what's a different number here besides the inventory? Sales. If you go back and look at the sales for dresses, we sold 101,000, bought 58,000. Special occasion dresses, we bought 58,000, sold 82, with a whopping 70% cost of goods purchased. This is behavior for this particular retailer that's not new. This is behavior that they keep doing the same thing over and over again. I think it was Einstein. I'm not sure, Nico, but I think Einstein said, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is, well, we know what he said.
Definition of insanity.
Thank you, Nico. He fills in all the blanks. He's like my first wife. So but look at, we did this last year. It was 70% this year. It was 69% last year. We continue to buy into non-productive classifications, which hurts our business. It ties up capital. And on the other token, we may be missing business in other parts of the store. We're going to go back to looking at a multi-store example here again. And I found this one kind of interesting because we're looking at an action report, and we're looking at jewelry, and we just picked out earrings and necklaces for this store. Now, if you look at the inventory in earrings in these 4 stores, we had 4,600 in the store 1, 3,500 store 2, 3,200, and then look at the inventory in necklaces. Pretty much the same. It's not that much different. You see how the inventory positions in the 4 stores in earrings are about the same as necklaces? Not much different. Not much different. What is different is sales. Look at the sales that we're trending to do this month. We're trending to do $8,400 in earrings, and we're trending to do $1,800 in necklaces. And every store in necklaces are down, even with the same amount of inventory in both necklaces and earrings. What is that telling you? I'm not so sure it's saying that necklaces are overstocked, because they're not. Look at the sales, the inventory plan. Not in fact, in the store too, if they're under. But look at the inventories in earrings in all 4 stores, particularly the 2 big stores. But all 4 stores are completely out of product and selling them as fast as they can get them in. They are out of balance in this particular example. Now I'm going to show you, I want to monetize some of this and show you exactly what it can mean, because it can be big dollars. So the first thing I want you to look at is, this is an action report. And what we're looking at here is a client. And I have picked out, I have highlighted, which you see right over here in this section. I have highlighted every category that we're significantly overstocked. Women's dresses, our inventory is 91,000. It should be 61. Women's, whatever that is, outfits, I don't know what it is, 23,900, should be 15. Go down the list. Women's footwear, we have 34,000, should be 16,900. So I've taken the opportunity to add them all up. And let's see what that is, because if you see this, there's a whole lot of overstock conditions here. I added them all up, and what we have in those classifications is $621,000 in current inventory. That's of last night. It's an action report. It's of last night. Where should we be? 389,000. In this store, right now, we have a surplus of inventory at retail of 232,000. And if I just use a generic margin of 50%, that means that we have $116,000 of our capital tied up that could be invested in other places of the store. $116,000 of surplus cost inventory that could be used to spend on other things in the business. That is being wasted right now, with inventory for the most part sitting and not selling. Now, this is the exact same store, Nico, the exact same store, but instead of highlighting the ones that were overstocked, I've gone through and took the inventory current, like in women's short sleeve shirts, and said, well, we're at 41,000, we should be at 55. And we can go down to skirts, we're at 8,700, we should be at 11,500. Every one of these highlighted ones, adult sweatshirts, we should have 27,000. Boy, look at that one, 6,500 understocked. 6,500 is the inventory. I added up all of the ones in the same, this is the same store at the same time frame, same report. And what I came up with is we had the optimum, we call it plan, we call it target, but what I like to call it is an optimum inventory. How much you should have in those categories at retail was 265,000. And what the current total was 145,000. So we have $120,000 in inventory shortage. $120,000 in inventory shortage. Now, what were the consequences of that? The sales goals in those categories, those classifications, for this month, our sales goal was 98,755. But because those classifications were all underfunded and underrepresented and underassorted, the actual trend is 49,667. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's $49,000 in missed business. We then can go back and look at $116,000 in cost that we've tied up in inventory we don't need, and we've missed $49,000 in classifications we do need. I remember several years ago meeting with a retailer that were brand new, and I was in their warehouse actually, and I was with the CFO, and he gave me a tour, and he said, "This is my frustration, Paul. Guys are on the walls. It's not selling. It's just sitting there tying up our money. Meanwhile, we're racing as fast as we can to keep filling in orders of all the things that are selling that we can't keep up with." That's called inventory balance problems. Those are the consequences of being against overstock and understock. And those are some ways that using your Management One reports, you can find this kind of situation if it exists in your store. Listen, as we often say at Management One, there's never one number on our reports to tell the story. It's a symphony of numbers. By the way, Nico, I own that, so don't try to steal it from me. This is a symphony of numbers that we use to make better decisions in how you manage your largest business investment, which is inventory. Ultimately, to achieve a good inventory balance is to understand a very basic principle in retail. You can't be everything to everybody. That principle exists, and you need to use it to help focus your inventory to produce more sales than previously thought. Dig deep, drill down, find out what you need to stand for, and not be everything to everybody. Dated inventory consisting of broken sizes, discontinued styles, color choices, and even vendors you haven't bought in a year that are still in there hanging around. Rat poison. They are rat poison in your business, and it is a cancer that can metastasize throughout your entire retail business. This is the reason why retailers never really achieve their full potential. Too many classes that have far too many of their dollars tied up not performing, while returning other parts of the business so fast that we can make a judgment call that we're missing business at the exact same time. And Nico, this is your favorite part of every presentation. This is the part where I say, I'm done.
Well, we actually did a session on this, Paul, last month. Not only is it sitting in there, but the tax implications now at the end of the year for some of these overstocks is another compounding issue that retailers don't factor in.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And if you want more information, Nico sends them the link to that presentation, which we delve into as well.
Absolutely. So one question here from Matt. He mentions, so there's a lot of reports that you're showing, Paul. What report should retailers really start with? And how often are they going to be reviewing this information that you're showing us?
Okay, well, the merchandise plan, either the merchandise plan or the plan on demand within Retail Orbit is really the mothership. You've got everything there that you need to know. You know, it's like everything you want to know with the Woody Allen movie, everything you want to know about sex, what we're afraid to ask, everything you want to know about your business does exist on those merchandise plans. But my two favorite reports within Retail Orbit are the global and the inventory action. They're two different reports, but they tell stories. The global is a historical report. The global report looks at sales against plan from last month, looks at inventory against planned inventory, and it looks at percentages of how much of the percentage of your business is an inventory of your business that sits in inventory, and how much did you sell last month, and how much did you sell for the last year. And then it takes chunks, which is in sales, which is not just looking at last month, but looking at the last quarter, the last 90 days, which I think is really important. Because 1 month can be an anomaly, as you know, Nico. But if we're looking at 90 days, that's a time frame that I think is very meaningful. So that's what I love about the global report. And there's other things on it too. But I want to move to the action report. The action report is actually looking at what's happening right now. What are our goals for the month and by each classification, and how are we trending this month against those goals? What's our inventory position as of last night, and what should our inventory position be at the end of the month? That is essentially the action report. That's why it's called, quite frankly, the action report, because it gives you the focus to take action on it. And each one of those reports, if you're a multi-location retailer, is broken down by location as well, which I also shared on this presentation.
And for the folks watching this that do not have direct access to Retail Orbit, I put a link in chat. We will also have a link if you're watching this on YouTube in the description. Paul, what do you say to the question when retailers ask, well, isn't all of this available in my POS system? I mean, all of these numbers are readily available in POS, aren't they?
Well, they are, because that's where we get all the numbers. So it's not a matter of if they're, all of the numbers that we show our clients, we get from their POS system. The problem is that most POS systems are not written by retailers for retailers. And it really, I think, Nico, comes down to that. And so consequently, if you want to see your inventory, you have to check this report over there. If you want to see how much you sold last month, you have to get this report over there. If you want to look at markdowns, well, they've broken it into discounts, markdowns, point of sale, block. They got 6 different ways to look at markdowns when, quite frankly, a markdown is simply a change from the original selling price to the existing price you sold it at, period. I mean, so they give a lot of information, but there was recently, I have to say, a new client told us, that they said, we have so much information from Management One, and it's not like drinking from a fire hose. It's sometimes I feel like we're being waterboarded. But the point is that what we find for new clients is that they very, very quickly understand the concepts, understand what we're trying to accomplish, and they very, very quickly then become very, very familiar and fluent, I would say, with the reports. And it happens within the first month or two, because everything they need to know, we've designed to be on these reports.
And time is a factor. We know, especially in the holidays, retailers do not have the time to pull various reports and start analyzing columns against columns. This is just a one-stop shop for all of that data. And the analysis has really been done for the retailer through the planning system, which is a fantastic benefit.
That's exactly right. And they also, of course, and our clients know this, they get a good education. We provide this kind of information on a regular basis, and how to look into the data, how to read the data, and use it to, solve problems, which in this case, the theme is, where have I got way too much inventory that I don't need? It could be that I'm sitting on old inventory. It could be I'm buying too much inventory as well as sitting on old inventory, ergo the special occasion dresses. And where am I out of stock? And where, if I had more, I'd sell more. There's no secret to this. There's no magic formula or, magic wand on how to grow your business. You grow your business very simply by targeting the areas you feel you can grow the business, and then you get on a buy plan that will get you to start investing in more inventory than what you've been buying before. To sell more, in most cases, you have to buy more. But how you do it and how you create those plans for growth is very, very important. And you have to be very careful with it. And that's what we do to help our clients.
The last question here, Karen was asking about the previous session. So I did in chat, I just put a link to watch the previous 2 sessions in this one here. If you're watching on YouTube, it will be down in the description box itself. But Paul, thank you very much. That was definitely enlightening to see a little bit more about the numbers deeper down that people don't really often see on a daily basis. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, this is the final of 3 sessions we did for the Accelerator series, but I think that we've had enough feedback from clients and other retailers in the community. This is certainly something that we're going to be repeating in 2024. So I'm excited. If you have a specific topic that you are interested in that we didn't cover in one of these sessions, please feel free to reach out to us at info@management-one.com. We're more than happy to design a specific session just for you. Paul, I want to thank you as always.
Thanks, Nico, and thanks everybody. Hopefully you found value in this. We didn't waste, well, how long? That was quick, Nico, 40 minutes, pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, that was the beauty of the Accelerator series. Typically, our webinars go 60 to 70 minutes sometimes, right, but these were shorter snippets for folks to really view. So we appreciate you taking the time to come and join us today, and we look forward to seeing all of you in 2024.
Great. Thanks, everybody.